Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to week 3 here in Flux Motorsport's second season of 2020. You're tuning in on Tuesday the 10th of November, and it's week 3 at Daytona Road Course, the third and final race at Daytona Road Course this season, and it's yet another wet one. In fact, it's pretty stormy over in Daytona, Florida at the moment, as you've seen in our previous broadcasts, but that hasn't changed at all. The rain is really coming down in this part of the world, and it's going to prove troublesome for our touring car drivers today. They're just beginning their 20 minutes of qualification, and then we're going to be set for 45 minutes of very changeable weather here, with the drivers opting for Renault Meganes and a couple of BMW Remain. Whilst we've got a couple of drivers out on track going into their warm-up lap, let's have a quick run through, because there has been a little bit of a change from last week at Portimao. So Tibby has since changed his BMW after a rather dismal race from the Dutchman. He's now in the number 66 SRT Motorsport Renault Megane. We also have a new driver as well with the retirement of Quiet Man. Survivor is now a permanent resident inside the touring cars for the remainder of the season, so his points last week will count and they'll be added on come the end of the standings after today's race. He's currently racing in the number 54 Cavul Motorsports Renault Megane as well. So just coming out of the practice session, things are getting a little bit mixed up, with all U82 actually setting the hottest lap through that one, and that is going to unsettle the console a little bit, as the console looks to continue his dominating run of form in the Touring Car Championship with his return to racing. But he's going to have his work cut out. A few drivers that often challenge the console in terms of race pace in these cars has now returned. We see Lecky 2000 back on track, and he'll be looking to try and upset his dear friend and close rival. And it looks as though a few drivers now just beginning their hot lap, so we'll try and take a look at those split times as they start to appear on my telemetry boards. So whilst we're waiting for these split times to come on through, let's just have a quick run through of the current championship standings for those of you that haven't yet seen them live on our social media accounts. Just pulling up the statistics now, and as mentioned before, the console is currently top of the standings in the touring cars after race 2 on 73 points, and then Jack Demenzies 12 points down on him in second place. Kovkarl is in third on 28 points away from the console, but it's still within reach with 35 points on offer for a win today, plus the 2 bonus points for both 1 bonus point, should I say, for fastest lap of the race, and 1 bonus point for pole position come the end of qualification. All U82 is in 4th place with T. Scott in 5th, Luke Snipes in 6th, and Jay Dyson in 7th. Casey Redwood in 8th place with Giacomo in 9th, who I'm sure he'll have quite a big following turning up for this race. Stoltz in 10th place with Lecky 2000 after his DNF, or DNS should I say, last week. Finds himself in 11th with Old Smoky in 12th and Green Gaming in 13th place. Just pulling up the standings from last week as well. The results from it, Survivor actually finished in 12th place, so he will have 5 points come the end of this one. He will be looking to try and build upon that as his continuing run in the rest of the championship starts to build momentum. But the lap times are coming in now. Currently it's Luke Snipes on the top. The console currently struggling for pace, and he's found himself in a bit of traffic as well, so that's going to prove pretty tricky for him. Then we've got Tibby in 3rd. He's just finding his feet really inside the Renault Megane, and we can see him there in the number 66 SRT. He's going to be my one to watch in this, Tibby. He's didn't really prove to get to grips in the BMW, but he's a very competent driver, and it's a much easier car to drive against this field with the front wheel drive Megane. Let's have a little look over to oh, in fact, Jack Demenzi's just coming in, and the number 4 Zavima there into 3rd place. Great lap from him, and it looks as though no driver is currently able to get past the 2 minute and 1 second at the moment. The weather is looking like it's going to pick up a little bit. We've got light cloud currently forecast on circuit. The track is still wet though, so it will start to dry out, and that is probably going to bring the lap times down the closer we get to the end of this session. Good to see the Giacomo mob tuning in for tonight's race. Good evening, Ellie, and good evening, Finley. Hope you're both doing well. Let's have a look at where Giacomo is currently. Currently in 15th, not yet set a lap. He is currently out on track, so let's have a little flick over as we get that beautiful aerial view of, I think it might be turn 4. Let me just have a quick check on my track map. Beg your pardon, it's actually turn 6, I believe, where we get that beautiful aerial shot. Car just coasting there, must be out on a slow lap. Now, for those of you that aren't involved in Flux Motorsport, generally if you see a driver with his lights on, it means that he's on a hot lap, so it's unusual to see him moving aside there to allow another car coming through. And looks as though Luke Snipes' time at the top is short-lived. TTB Giacomo has gone really quick with a 2 minute and 1 second. That's done enough to find him second on the grid, but the console is currently flying in pole position. 2 minutes, 1 second, .233. Let's just bring up the map and have a look at where the console is at the moment. So that is coming out of turn 6 into turn 7 and just about to enter the banked section of what is the regular Daytona Tri-Oval. This is going to be, or that exit of the corner is going to be one of the hot spots when we have quite heavy rain. As those of you that have watched the GT3 and GT1 championships earlier on in the week may well have noticed, do get a lot of purling up here. And as we approach the bus stop here, it's usually pretty fine until we reach this section here, this second right-hander. As we see the console coming through, quite a lot of surface water does tend to build up there. It looks as though the console is going even quicker still. We did expect the track to start speeding up, and track temperatures are quite high here. We can just see those water tails picking back up on certain parts of the track, but the rest of the track is looking dry. We may well see drivers opting for dry tyres come the end of this qualification run. View of the regulars tuning into the stream tonight. Good evening, Big Al, and good evening, Lucy Axon. We'll be rooting for the console and all you 82 respectively. Hope you're all doing well as we see a big bit of action there right in the background. I think that might have been, it looked as though it was the number 66 SRT of Tibby, I think, just coming into one of the blue liveried Renault Meganes. Not too sure who it was, but I imagine it's one of the drivers that we can currently see in the pits. Let's just have a quick look over. I think it might have been the number 25 Joaquin of Luke Snipes. Let's just have a look at what... Yep, in fact, I think it was the Emoji vehicle of Old Smokey coming into the back of Luke Snipes that we just saw in the background there. Let's have a look over to Lecky at the moment. Number 2 Momo, always easy to spot, always goes for this angry black and yellow liveried Renault Megane. He's currently out on an outlap, so not getting any split time delta, but he's going to look to jump up pretty quick, and I wonder whether or not he's just been biding his time waiting for this track to dry out before he comes out and sets a lap here. So it looks as though the timer has now begun. He comes straight back in. 10 minutes remaining. He's going to want to try and get some laps set. It does take a long time to complete an outlap in the touring cars. In fact, in any car around this circuit. Kovkarl, meanwhile, has gone into second place, not able to challenge the console just yet, but he's knocked TTV Giacomo and Stoltz down a place or two. Stoltz is currently on green sectors, as is Giacomo, so there could well be improvements from both the drivers in third and fourth place here. Meanwhile, the console looks as though he's just gone quicker once again. 2 minutes, 0.807 set by the current driver in pole position. So the track is definitely hotting up. In fact, all you 82, let's have a quick fly over to him. He was looking really quick in his sectors. In fact, there he is. He crosses the line and falls into second place with a 2 minutes, 1 second, almost on the money. So good lap there from all you 82. And it looks as though he's going to try and stick it out for another one. He is currently on wet tyres as well, and I wonder whether or not we're going to start to see the drivers chancing it on the dries. A lot of confidence from Finley Wall at the moment, saying that Jack's got this. That'll be Giacomo that he's rooting for, and we'll have to wait and see. Finley, he's looking pretty quick at the moment. We can see him in fourth position, and for those of you that have been watching our previous streams of the Daytona road course, you know that anything can happen coming into turn one. Very, very tricky corner indeed. Hopefully drivers are going to be aware, but it does look as though we're going to have a wet start to this race, so they're going to have their senses really dialed up and be very aware of the cars ahead of them and at side of them. So 8 minutes remaining now. Looks as though Lecky is returned to track. He's currently on his outlap. Does look as though all U82 has gone green in sector 1. So has Kovkarl, but his sector 2 is not looking too promising. Tibby and T-Scott. In fact, Tibby was making improvements. J46 Dyson, on the other hand, does enough to take pole position with 7 minutes and 45 seconds remaining inside this session. That's going to give the console a big kick up the arse. And he's going to be really pushing hard now, but we can see all U82, we're currently on board with him. He's gone over 2 tenths quicker so far, so this looks like it's going to be an improvement, and it might be enough to try and take the console out and push him down into third place. Things are really hotting up as the track starts to dry out, so I can imagine that we're going to see a big dash for cars coming into the pit lane, making those changes onto dry tyres. As we see, all U82 momentarily gets put into second place. T-Scott then jumps up and takes him out of it. We can see T-Scott just behind in the red and blue liveried car there. So let's see what's going on with Lecky. I think he's now out on a hot lap. He's just going to be posting his first sector time. I'm just keeping my eye on the board at the moment, and we'll see what it comes up with in a couple of corners time. So J46 Dyson continues to remain in pole position. T-Scott is in second. All U82 in third, with the console now relegated all the way back down to fourth place, second row at the moment. Let's see what can happen. 6 minutes remaining inside this qualification, and then we're going to be set for 40 minutes of performance impacting damage tyres wear accelerated racing here at Daytona Road Circuit. Looks as though Lecky, he has gone green, but he was always going to go green in his sector times. Just to give you some comparison, he's on a 49.783. That's quicker than most of the other drivers. Also, Survivor is looking pretty good. In fact, he's just completed a lap now on a 2 minutes and 2 second .258. That's enough to put him up to 11th place on the grid. So improvements being made there by Survivor. He falls in just ahead of Green Gaming at the moment. Casey Redwood is currently unable to almost hook it up, unfortunately. Looks as though he's perhaps struggling a little bit with his setup. Have to see what happens with this one. Lecky is making improvements as well, but his sector 2 is looking miles off the pace of the front runners by a couple of seconds. So it looks as though this is going to be a mid-pack lap by Lecky 2000. It is only his first lap that he'll be set in. Looks as though he's got a handy little draft there from T-Scott, I believe it is. And it looks as though his lap's good enough to slot him into 7th place, so not too bad there at all. And it's going to make it tricky though coming into turn 1 if he doesn't make any improvements on that. So it is T-Scott that we can see ahead of him. He's got in the number 17 for eMotorsports, and we can see there just how understeery these Renault Megans are. Falls back in. It looks as though his car's ghosted there for some reason. I wonder whether or not that's a connection issue. Oversight by the game, because ghosting is usually deactivated. Let's have a little look over to the current championship leader in the console. Still out on wet tyres, it seems. In fact, I'm not sure whether or not he's come in. He's got 10 litres worth of fuel left to go, but this try is now looking dry. Those tyres, you can see there a tiny bit of spray coming off on the right hand side, but other than that, the track is looking very dry indeed. Have a look what you can see. Windscreen wipers still on for the console, so he's definitely anticipating some wet weather. I'm not sure it's going to come in the remaining 4 minutes of this session though. And then you can see again just a little bit of spray coming up from those tyres. He is half a second quicker than his current best. Really tail happy there coming out of turn 6 into the bank section now, so he's gunning for it. He has actually gone purple in sector 1, whereas Lecky has just set purple sector 2 with a 43.79. That is really quick from Lecky. It looks as though his sector 1's let him down before it, so we're not going to see any major jumps from him. That's going to set him up nicely for the next lap, I'm sure of it. However, all eyes on the console at the moment as he comes into the braking of the bus stop, hard onto the brakes, throws it in for the left-hander into the right. Looks as though he's managing to manage a rear-end power slide in that front-wheel drive Renault Megane, and he's 2.2 seconds quicker than his previous. This is going to be a sub-2 minute lap if he can continue this sort of pace, and it's going to pretty much secure his pole position if he can bring it on home. He is in the easiest section of the track now. All he needs to do is get it around the straights and not lose too much momentum. Let's see what it comes in at. The console does go quickest with a 1:58.399. Huge lap there from the current championship leader. And the console's age-old motto of pink cars go faster is definitely proving to be true. We see his lights just go back on, but he'll be really happy with that. I think that is job done from the console. Let's have a look over. Looks as though Al Axon is currently sat in the pits. Looks as though he is finished for the qualification session. In fact, a lot of drivers returning to pits. Let's have a look. We've got TTB Giacomo. He's got a big following here. He's actually gone purple in sector 2 that last time around it, but he is on a fresh lap this time, and he's 1.5 seconds quicker than his previous best. You can see him there really late into the brakes, and it looks as though it's worked for him. Didn't lose too much momentum as we see him just catching a bit of a front end slide. So Giacomo bringing it around the banking for the first time. He's then going to try and gain as much speed as he can. Let's have a look at his speedo here. Currently exceeding 140 miles an hour in these front-wheel drive Megans. Is he going to get up to 150 by the time he reaches the braking zone of the bus stop? Looks as though he's just about to touch it. Then hard onto the brakes into third gear for the long chicane of the bus stop, and then back onto the throttle all the way until the end. This looks as though it's going to be a really quick lap. This might be front row. I don't think it's going to beat the console, but it might just be enough to knock Olu82 down into third position. Let's wait and see. From the young driver, comes around the final bend. Now he just has a straight all the way up until the start finish. Little kink to the left, and he might just want to try and cut that as much as he can down onto the yellow line, and he does. It's enough for third place from Giacomo there, and a great lap to sort of see out the remainder of this session. Let's have a look over to Lecky and whereabouts he's up to. Doesn't look as though this is going to be a valid lap for Lecky. It looks as though he's actually invalidated in sector 1, so maybe let's have a look at one of the other drivers. Stoltz also looks as though he's invalid on my telemetry data. It isn't the most reliable. However, Green Gaming has gone green in sector 1. He's just set a green sector 2 as well. So let's have a look at Green Gaming in the BMW. Definitely one of the harder cars to stick it out in the rain. It can be extraordinarily quick on the off the start though. And that is our session complete. So drivers will just be finishing up the laps now as Green Gaming comes across the line. Let's see where it's going to leave him. And it's enough for 7th place. Huge jump up the standings there in the starting order for Green Gaming. Good finish to the session for him. And that pushes T. Scott and Lecky down a place or two, who have since returned to the pits. Let's have a look at Stoltz. Stoltz looks as though he is on a lap. But I'm not sure whether or not it's going to be a valid one. Luke Snipes and Survivor still out on a valid lap as well. Luke Snipes going green in Sector 1. Does look as though he's a second and a half off the pace of our leaders at the moment, which is the console actually, who's also gone purple in Sector 1. Purple in Sector 2 from the console as well. He's currently on a 156.8. I think it's going to go even quicker by some margin here. We might see a 155, maybe a 154 from the console. This is going to be a huge lap from him when he comes across the line. In fact, let's flip over to him now. He's just about to come across. And the console completes the session with a 156.5, I beg your pardon. So not quite making it into the 155s. Also Survivor comes across the line. Not a large improvement from him. Looks as though Sector 2 and Sector 3 let him down in that Flux Motorsport Renault Megane. So Luke Snipes also unable to improve. Looks as though he's going to remain static in 13th place. But here we go, end of the qualification session. Let's have a look at how our starting grid is going to start out. The console takes pole position and the vital bonus point, with Giacomo lining up alongside him on the front row for the first time this season. Great qualification from TTV Giacomo there. Stoltz in 3rd place with Jack de Menzies for company alongside him on the 2nd row. Olu82 3rd row with J46 Dyson alongside. And then Kovkarl in 7th place with Green Gaming in 8th. T. Scott in 9th and Lecky 2000 in 10th. Lecky 2000 with a 1-place grid penalty there, and he'll be looking to try and make big inroads on this race. Casey Redwood in 11th place and Survivor in 12th. And then Luke Snipes and Tibby in 13th and 14th, with Old Smokey with a 1-place grid penalty making up the very back of the grid. So let's get stuck into our race session. We're going to have 2 minutes worth of tinker time, and you can see just in the background there as I retire that the weather is dismal here at Daytona racetrack in Florida. We're set for a thunderstorm, so you're going to see flashes of lightning come across, and we're currently in that sort of season in this part of the world, and it's going to be a twitchy bum time up into turn 1, that's for sure. Do hope that the driver can get away safely, but it's going to be tricky conditions here. Looks as though the rain isn't going to be permanent, but it is going to feature heavily, I think, in the start of this race, and it looks as though we're going to have a lot of it blow away, with a little bit of rain to contend with later on throughout the race. So 1 minute and 15 seconds remaining inside our tinker time. Let me know your predictions and whereabouts you're watching this at the world. We've got quite a few viewers live on the stream at the moment. I'd love to hear from you. Other than that, let's get stuck into this one. I think the console has to be favourite, but I'm expecting a good finish from TTV Giacomo. I'm also expecting big movement from Tibby in 14th place, and Lecky as well in 10th. I'm expecting him to make some big inroads on the way up. I'll have to wait and see what happens there. So just 30 seconds remaining or so, and then we're going to be underway here at Daytona Road Course for the final time this season in Flux Motorsport Season 2. All championships have already came and saw and conquered this circuit. I think all races have been in the wet, and we're just about to get underway with the rolling start here at Daytona. Drivers will bunch up, and then it'll be lights out and away we go. Race 3 in the Touring Car Championship. Here are the lights. It looks as though we've already got action happening at the back of the field. Not too sure what's happened there, but we're underway into turn 1. Looks as though Jack de Menzies has been able to take the place off Giacomo. Giacomo now falling down into 3rd place, but all drivers look to be away pretty cleanly through turn 1. We'll just focus in on the back of the grid, and it does look as though all of them are away quite cleanly. Let's have a look. Is it Luke? Luke Snipes looks as though he got taken off before the race had even begun, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there with the rest of the stewards' inquiries. But the console has made up a huge lead already, and looks as though Giacomo potentially getting a slowdown penalty. We just saw him dropping places in that number 87 Monster Energy, and he's losing even more places, falling down into 5th position now. So that's all U82, J46 Dyson, and Jack Demenzies ahead of him. Looks as though Jack Demenzies run very, very wide there, and also with all U82, I believe, running pretty wide. Great camera angle there, and we can see the differences in line. So that is all U82 on the right hand side of your screen, up on the high bank of the turn, with TTB Giacomo in 4th place, making that move happen. Let's just go on board with Giacomo, and we can see ahead of him, that is Jack Demenzies and J46 Dyson ahead. We can just see the taillights under braking of the console as well as he comes up into the bus stop. Oh, as we see massive contact there. Who was that? I think that might have been, was it Kovkarl perhaps? I think it was Kovkarl, just catching someone into the braking area of the bus stop. Not too sure who paid the price, but somebody got absolutely battered, and it looks as though we've got our first retirement of the evening. It's come very, very early on. Looks as though we're missing Lecky 2000, and who else is gone as well, because I think we're missing 2 drivers from this. Either way, let's get back up to the front here. Jack Demenzies looks as though he's being challenged by J46 Dyson. J46 Dyson, though, runs very, very wide into turn 1, and he's going to fall back behind TTV Giacomo into 4th position. So the console leads with the 2-second lead to Jack Demenzies, then TTB Giacomo right hot on his trail, as we can see in the Monster Energy car, just making his moves up into the inside. Is he going to make this one stick? Does look as though Jack Demenzies runs a little bit wide, but he's not going to be able to do it this time around. TTB Giacomo looking a little bit sharper on those lines in these hazardous thunderstorm conditions here at Daytona. Looks as though Casey Redwood is into the pits for the first time. I think that's got to be for damage repairs. He's in 13th place and not having the best of seasons in any of his championships, unfortunately, from the Curb Clippers driver here. So Casey Redwood, we do hope that his luck will change as the season progresses. So the battle at the moment between J46 Dyson all the way up to Jack Demenzies at the moment for the podium spots definitely looks to be a hotly contested one. Inside the cockpit of J46 Dyson at the moment, so that is Giacomo that you can see ahead of him, with Jack Demenzies ahead of there, just coming up into the braking of the bus stop. The drivers look to be cutting that superbly. You can see the big puddle of water now developing on that 3rd corner coming into the bus stop. It's going to be very hazardous as that one develops through. So the console leads the way. Jack Demenzies has gone purple in Sector 1 this lap around, but J46 Dyson actually going purple in Sector 2. So it looks as though we've got a bit of action going on behind as well. It looks as though Kovkarl's currently dropping places. That is T. Scott moving ahead of him with Old Smokey in the Emochi liveried car. So Emochi and T. Scott now battling it out. Let's have a look at how this one develops. T. Scott looks as though he's got the inside line, and looks as though Old Smokey slipping it into the slipstream as we come up to the braking of turn 1. It does look as though Old Smokey's got very, very loose there. Both drivers look as though they've messed up the braking into that, and it's just a case of who messed up least. It does look as though T. Scott is going to have to fall back in line, maybe behind Kovkarl. He's going to do it under braking, but he can't. I think T. Scott really just struggling to break this car down into the corners at the moment. Really struggling under these treacherous conditions. Kovkarl, meanwhile, in 8th place, so Old Smoky looks as though he's come off better off in that current battle. Let's go back up to the front at the moment. So J46 Dyson, ooh, getting very, very sideways there. That was actually Giacomo getting very, very sideways, and that's going to allow Jack de Menzies to try and challenge that position, and J46 Dyson is not too far away from it either. Let's go on board at the moment with J46 Dyson. There is Jack de Menzies just on the right hand side of this. Jump back into trackside, into the braking of the bus stop. So that is Jack de Menzies up on the inside. Is he going to get him under braking? Have to wait and see. It does look as though he's got that move done. So big, strong, confident driving from Jack de Menzies there to take 3rd position. So it's the console still leading to Giacomo at the moment, running very well indeed, with Jack de Menzies in 3rd, and this battle between him and J46 Dyson continues for one more lap. 38 minutes and 50 seconds remaining inside this race, so it's certainly hotting up. Does look as though that battle between Kovkarl and Old Smoky isn't yet over. Does look as though Kovkarl has receded it for now. Finds himself in 8th place, and we can see the gap there growing between the PCCF Megane of Kovkarl and that Emochi car of Old Smoky up in 7th place. Let's have a look at what's going on between Survivor and T-Scott, I believe it is. So Survivor currently running in 11th place. It does look as though his pace is pretty good compared to T-Scott. He set a 2 minutes and 8 second lap last time around, with T-Scott setting a 2 minutes 17. And T-Scott looking much sharper there in the braking into turn 1. That's how he wants to be able to do it time and time again. In the meantime, looks as though we've got Stoltz now on board with Stoltz. He's managed to catch up to the rear end of J46 Dyson and Jack de Menzies, and now just coming up into 6th position. And it looks as though he's now in a place to maybe challenge them coming up into the pit stop. Does look as though Lecky 2000 was disconnected along with Tibby, so those are the 2 drivers currently missing. It's a shame as well. I was expecting big things from both of those drivers, as we see the thunder claps opening up, lightning bolts shooting across the sky here at Daytona Speedway, and all 3 drivers looking very, very tidy into the bus stop, and it looks as though TTV Giacomo actually pulled off a great move there. Has he not managed to make it count? I think Jack de Menzies just snuck on up. This is a huge battle between these 3. Great driving indeed, with Stoltz with a perfect view of it as it continues to develop. So lap number 4 now. Just about to come up to lap 5, and we're 3 abreast here coming into the start-finish line. It falls back into 2 rows of 2. And it's J46 Dyson now leading the charge, with Giacomo in 3rd. Stoltz now in 4th place, and he looks as though he just comes together with Jack de Menzies. Jack de Menzies moves up to the inside, and it looks as though J46 Dyson ran a little bit wide there. So let's jump back into the cockpit of Stoltz at the moment, so we can see Jack de Menzies in the green livery car on the right hand side, just making a place up to J46 Dyson. Looks as though they're interweaving between each other at the moment, so that's Giacomo ahead of J46, Jack de Menzies in 4th place, and then Stoltz, who we're currently on board with, in 5th position. We'll continue on board with him at the moment. You can just see the console and his lead of 5 seconds currently ahead. We just saw him passing down on the run up to turn 6. Does look as though the rain is now set to clear up momentarily. We'll jump into the aerial view then. You can see that there's no difference at all between these drivers, and that's all U82's air bubbles car there, getting very loose indeed. Luckily he's got 9 seconds ahead of him to his nearest competitor of Kovkarl, so it's not going to punish him too much. Meanwhile, Stoltz is now in the slipstream of Jack de Menzies, and he's making inroads. Slipstreams play a huge bonus when you're in these similar cars. In fact, similar cars, they're all identical cars currently in the top. What are we looking at? Top 11 cars, all of them running in the Renault Megane. So currently on board with Stoltz, that is Jack Menzies ahead of him, J46 Dyson and then TTV Giacomo, so the Giacomo mob will certainly be happy, currently in second place, and looks to be quite secure at the moment. He's got half a second ahead of J46 Dyson. Slipstreams will play a part of this as the race progresses. Let's jump back to our trackside camera as they come across the start-finish line for lap 6 now. 34 minutes remaining. We are estimating this is going to be 22 to 23 laps of a race inside the touring cars. And it does look as though Giacomo got a little bit loose there into turn 1. He falls back into third position now behind J46 Dyson. So J46 Dyson just able to hold his line. The two Monster Energy drivers running very close indeed, going toe to toe. And Stoltz is even closer in the action now between Jack de Menzies, it seems. Jump back into the cockpit cam of him. Just coming up to the braking of turn 5 here. It looks as though Giacomo's got the inside line. He retakes second place, and you can see the skies opening up now. The sun is beaming into the eye of the storm here at Florida, and looks as though we might well see this track just starting to dry out. So it's the console leading to TTV Giacomo, J46 Dyson in third place, Jack de Menzies in fourth, and then Stoltz in fifth place. Volume 82 in sixth, with Kovkar in seventh, Luke Snipes in eighth, Old Smoky in ninth, T Scott in 10th, Survivor in 11th, Green Gamer in 12th, and then Casey Redwood at 13th place at the moment. So we see the cars bunching up into the bus stop, and it does look as though that's J46 Dyson just having a little look around the outside. He's not going to make that move happen, I don't think. Not this time around, but let's see if he can stick into the slipstream and be able to overtake TTV Giacomo. We just see him there moving up into the high line, which is going to give him a little bit of a speed advantage. He is going the long way around the circuit, but a little bit more grip there as they come very, very close together. And we've also got Jack de Menzies as well, reaping the benefits of the slipstream. So J46 Dyson has a little bit of overspeed here. He is going to have to go the long way around, and he's not on the ideal line into the braking of turn 1. So we'll wait and see what happens as they begin to brake. Looks as though J46 Dyson losing out. That is Jack de Menzies moving up into third place. J46 Dyson then has to fall back into fourth, and that is just the difference in ideal line, I think it was. Just getting his braking ever so slightly wrong. So Jack de Menzies also works his way up into second place. These drivers really showing the talent of the touring car pool here in Flux Motorsport. Had plenty of changes of position, but it's currently the console leading to Jack de Menzies with TTV Giacomo in third place. Looks as though J46 Dyson was just about to make a move on his teammate. Thinks better of it though, falls back in line and waits until we get to the banked corner section. So whilst I can take a little minor breath, we just see there TTV Giacomo perhaps just cutting the corners. And that might be a slowdown penalty. We'll have to wait and see what happens to him. Also looks as though we've got Survivor coming into the pits. Let's have a look. I wonder whether or not he's coming for damage repairs. I wouldn't expect a change of tyres unless he's coming in for dries. However, we are forecast for some wet weather, so that'll be a bold move from him. TTV Giacomo moved back up into second place. Jack de Menzies in third, and he's very, very close as well. He's going to try and go the long way around, and that's going to give him the inside line here, and it looks as though he's going to receive a slowdown penalty. It looks as though TTV Giacomo falls back into fourth place, but I do believe that there's going to be a slowdown from J46 Dyson as we see him there just slowing down his pace. So the race director getting involved, and that was for track cutting. Let's have a look at the timing board as they come around the final corner. So Jack de Menzies has a 2-second penalty to be applied by the end of this. That will be for track cutting. TTV Giacomo moves back up into second place. Jack de Menzies is running very, very close to him in the bright green number 4 Zavima Racing Team Renault Megane. And it looks as though J46 is going to have a little look up here. In fact, he has done. Jack Menzies has slipped all the way down into 5th position. So Stoltz has been able to make gains there. And whilst we continue to watch this fantastic action developing out on track, let me remind you about what's coming up in this week here at Flux Motorsport. Thursday is going to be the next race. It isn't currently broadcast. We will get the race up on YouTube as soon as possible. That one's hosted by Lecky 2000, and it's the GT1s tackling the Dubai Autodrome GP circuit. Hopefully a bit of dry weather, because I am involved in that one, and I wouldn't mind a dry race to try and build upon my points, because my performance has been dismal in that one. As I mentioned, currently not broadcast live, but you can currently check out all of the action on the GT1 Championship for this season. It's been eventful, that's to say, at the very least. Then on Saturdays it's our LMP2 Championship. Race 3 of this one, and it's the Nürburgring GP circuit. Looks as though J46 Dyson is just being challenged here by Giacomo. In fact, that's Giacomo challenging and holding it off. Are we going to see a change of position? I think we might well do. And Stoltz is right into the slipstream of this. So Giacomo moves up into 2nd place. Stoltz is now challenging for 3rd. Huge race this between these 4 drivers. I mean, the console is just running his own race, and kudos to him. He's developed now a 10-second lead, but these 4 cars have just been a battle of wits, it seems. This is almost what we come to expect from a classic oval or tri-oval race. Not necessarily from the road course, but really fair competitive driving, as we see just a little bit of paint exchanging from the both pairings of cars there. And it does look as though we've got Al Axon has been able to catch up. Al Axon's gone 2 seconds quicker. He's actually matching the current lap times almost of the console. So Al Axon with a 2 minutes and 1 second .8 last time around, whereas the console setting a 2 minutes 1 second .4, and that's done enough to get him just up in sight of this battle that's ahead of him. So that is the rear end of Stoltz. In fact, that is the chain of 4 cars that we've been following through most of the race. So back onto the action, as I mentioned, the LMP2s are going to be racing around the Nürburgring GP this current Saturday. That one isn't broadcast, but on Sunday you'll be able to join both myself and the console for the Indianapolis road race to cap that off. That is Sunday live on YouTube from 8 o'clock UK time. It does look as though Green Gaming has come into the pits. He's doing a change. I wonder whether or not that is for tyres or not. I think it might be for damage. The last lap that he set was a 3 minutes and 13, so that suggests that he's got himself into a bit of a mischief. Looks as though TTB Giacomo and J46 Dyson are continuing this tete-a-tete. On board with Dyson at the moment, so that's Giacomo ahead of him. Teammates in livery alone, but both of them challenging for their own positions out on track. Jump back trackside, let's have a look how Jack Menzies is holding onto the back of this. So you see there the overspeed that J46 is able to get from the slipstream, and that's going to be even greater now that the track is starting to dry out. However, does look as though we've got some spots of rain coming here, so I do hope that those drivers haven't changed the tyres in terms for wet ones, and it's all going to be changed now in the track dynamics as the dry line starts to get a little bit wetter again, and we see J46 Dyson just slipping behind there in turn 1. It looks as though Jack Menzies is making a move up the inside of TTB Giacomo here in turn 2. And is he going to get this one stuck? I don't think he's going to be able to, because he's going to have the outside line coming up into the next corner, but we'll have to wait and see. Advantage is definitely with Giacomo. All 3 cars almost going 3 abreast here, and it's going to be heavy into the braking zone here. Let's see if anybody gets caught out. Just a little bit of bumper rubbing, and all 3 survive and drive on. And look at the gap that they've been able to pull away from Stoltz here. So they've been able to get a couple of seconds, and we can see that is Jack Menzies running a little bit wide. That's going to allow J46 Dyson to move up on through, and it looks as though Jack Menzies lost a whole lot of momentum there. So he's going to have to try and build that one back up. Let's have a look at how Stoltz is affected by it. He is able to make some gains here. So back over to the battle for second place. TTB Giacomo has the advantage. J46 Dyson's going to look to try and take it away from him here into the bus stop. Not going to happen this time around. He's just not close enough. You see a big puddle forming and almost catches Giacomo out. J46 Dyson, aware of it, manages to make that adjustment. 24 minutes remaining, so not even halfway through this, and we've seen the top 4 or top 5 change position countless times. Meanwhile, right at the front of that, it looks as though the console's settled into his race. We've just seen his last lap drop down ever so slightly, but that's probably due to the wet weather. Just have a look, he's cool running at the moment. Let's have a look where he is on the map. Doesn't look as though he's encountering any back markers just yet. He will be coming up to one pretty soon. Let's have a look who that might be. I think it might be Green Gaming. It's not at all. Looks as though it's someone. There we go. It's actually Casey Redwood, the back marker that the console's currently coming up to. So TTB Giacomo still holds the lead ahead of J46 Dyson. Stoltz is in 4th place, but we did just see the rear end of Stoltz's car there in the view as we track around to Jack Demenzies in 5th place. So whilst we've got a tiny bit of respite between the two battling drivers for the podium spot, let me remind you that if you're watching this and you want to know more about what we do here at Flux Motorsport, then you can always go over to our website. It's www.fluxmotorsport.com. Also, if you like the content that we put out there, all donations would be appreciated. All of our money does get pumped right back into the community for such things such as our prize events and the improvement of all of our services. And if you want to try and join up into this community, then in the top right hand side of that website you'll find a link to our Discord, which is a completely free service. No matter which device you want to use, you can use your PC, you can use your Mac, Android phone or Apple phone. Get yourself on there. You'll be greeted by a member of our staff in the welcome room. You just need to take a couple of details from you, and then you'll be introduced to the rest of the community and hopefully be out on track as soon as possible. J46 Dyson losing the rear end there through the bus stop through the second half of it. That's going to allow Stoltz to come through. To be honest, J46 Dyson did really well to hold on to that. I thought it was a goner, and if it did spit him out, he was going to be spat out wallwards. So good catch there from the Scotsman. Oh, I beg your pardon, sorry, J46 Dyson. I think he might be South African. I could be wrong, but yeah, not a Scotsman at all. Apologies for that. That is actually T-Scott that I'm getting mixed up with. But either way, did very, very well to hold it. He is going to be challenged soon, though, by Jack Demenzies unless he manages to pick up his pace. We'll have to wait and see how that progresses. It does look as though Giacomo is now going to come under pressure from Stoltz. Stoltz has done really well just holding on to this one. He's kept his cool all the way through it. And looks as though Giacomo making a mistake, losing traction at the front end, understeering massively, and that's going to cost him. He now slips down into 5th position. Very costly mistake there coming up into turn 4 here at Daytona. Green Gaming into the pits once again, and you can see why that BMW is had some pretty considerable aerodynamic adjustments on the front end. Looks like a bulldog that's been slapped in the face with a pan. So the console has a considerable gap. We can see it there on the track map on the right hand side of your screen ahead of the rest of the drivers. Let's get back into the action though. J46 Dyson is in 2nd place. Does look as though Stoltz is on the charge here as they come out around the first set of banking. Also looks as though Giacomo is about to challenge his nearest rival in Jack Demenzies at the moment. He's currently going up the inside into the bus stop. And it's a great line from Giacomo. Does look as though he just cut the limits a little bit, and Jack Demenzies had to run over the grass, just losing traction it seems on the braking zone into the bus stop there. So the console leads with 20 minutes remaining inside this one. J46 Dyson in second place, and it does look as though Stoltz is just about to go around the outside across the start-finish line, and we're going to see a bit of an undercut. Will he drop down into the low line here for the braking into turn one? Doesn't look as though he is. He just falls back into line, and he looks as though he's got the better of Dyson there under braking. These two very good friends. Wanted to be competitors. Ooh, he gets very close to the wall there. That looks as though it might be a slowdown penalty issued for Stoltz, and he allows that position back. Looks as though he just clipped the edge off that apex through the grass and gives the place back, so no harm, no foul, unless the race director wants him to slow down even further. So Giacomo has since got past Jack de Menzies. He now sits in fourth place, and it looks as though All U82 and his number 11 Air Bubbles car is now even closer to the rear end of Jack de Menzies, challenging for fifth place soon if he can get onto the back of it. Who knows what sort of gains he may be able to make as the race progresses. Back over to Stoltz in third position, still trying to hug the back of Dyson, it seems. See if there's any gains being made within the slipstream. Doesn't look to be at the moment. Let's get a bit of a view as we knock the interface off just through the bus stop here. See the similar braking. You could hear the dip in the revs from Stoltz. He continues to chase him down. It looked as though he did manage to make a slight advantage there coming out of the bus stop. It looks as though the rain. Oh no, it's still coming down. It's just this camera angle doesn't show it particularly well, but I know it definitely is still coming down. We have got little dry sections appearing within the track though, so we'll have to wait and see whether or not that develops as Stoltz moves to the inside. This is a wise move from Stoltz now. Moves up to the inside. He's got the overspeed. Now he's got the ideal line coming into the braking area of turn one. Let's see whether or not he can make it stick. Looks to be quite late onto the brakes. He's not going to be able to do it. Very, very late onto the brakes indeed, and that's going to allow J46 Dyson to take that one back. I think he was maybe just a little bit overconfident there into his braking zone. Does look as though Jack de Menzies has been able to get the advantage over TTB Giacomo as well. Giacomo now falling back into fifth place and soon into the fire of All U82 if he's not careful. Does look as though we've got a bit of a battle going on back here as well into the second pack on circuit. Kofkarl currently in 8th position. We did see him getting a little bit too acquainted with one of the cars, mounting him like an Attenborough wildlife documentary at some point, but he's now behind T-Scott, I believe, just ahead of him. And top 10 finish will see him well after a pretty dismal start. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Back over to the race at the front though. The console continues to lead. Lap 14 with 16 minutes and 50 seconds remaining on this rather damp Daytona road circuit. J46 Dyson is in second place with Stoltz in third. However, we are currently tracking round Stoltz in the 4C Motorsport car, and he is making inroads it seems. Let's see what he can do into the braking zone of the bus stop. Late onto the brakes once again, and we see him there having to cut across. I think Stoltz is forgetting that the track's wet. He does seem to be braking extraordinarily late, and it's costing him at the moment in terms of track position. Let's have a look at his race timing. So no penalties being applied as of yet. Does look as though Survivor's got a 10-second penalty though. He's either racked those up or that will have been a speeding in the pit lane infringement. We'll only be able to know once this race is completed. So it looks as though All U82 is now within the exclamation marker, which means that he's within a second and a half of his nearest rival, and his nearest rival this time around, much to the dismay of plenty of our viewers at the moment, is TTB Giacomo. Let's have a look what he can do into the braking of turn one. So last time around, All U82 actually went almost 3 seconds quicker than the car ahead of him, which is why he's managing to make such big inroads. All U82 looks as though he's flying, let's be honest, and he may well have a chance of getting himself up into the top 4, and depending on how he progresses after that point, might be able to challenge for a podium here. And I'm sure Lucy Axon will be very happy about that. Currently watching as Al progresses. Been a driver that we've seen run many a good touring car race. Al Axon, aka All U82, we also saw him doing very well indeed in last season's GT3 Championship, and he's definitely a contender. I don't think he's going to be able to challenge the console unless he can get a couple of wins under his belt as we approach the second half of the season next week. But he's certainly going to be up there and challenging with the best of the rest. We just it seems as though somebody needs to beat the console in the remaining 5 races coming up in the rest of the season if we're going to see a change in the championship lead. But All U82 is now within the slipstream, and it looks as though actually Jack Demenzies is about to come under pressure from Giacomo as well. Just having a little look up the different lines there on the approach to the bus stop. Jump into the cockpit cam, so we're now on board with All U82. That is Giacomo ahead, and then Jack Demenzies ahead of them, and you can see the 6-second lead now that Stoltz has ahead of this little pack of cars. And that's going to be pretty considerable. You can just see him now coming around the start-finish line as all 3 drivers look to make their adjustments. And it looks as though Giacomo is taking the position. All U82 just has to adjust ever so slightly there to allow for the inside line of Jack Demenzies. So TTV Giacomo moves up into 4th place. Jack Demenzies falls down a position into 5th, and now All U82 continues to wait patiently, and he'll be looking for his opportunity to try and pick them off. Meanwhile, just ahead of them, J46 Dyson continues his reign in 2nd place. It looks as though Stoltz has actually got a terrible drive there coming out of turn 4, and loses a bit of momentum. Now falls 7/10 behind his good friend and rival J46 Dyson. So 12 minutes and 50 seconds remaining inside this session. Lap 16 here. The console continues to lead ahead. Looks as though Green Gaming's pit stops have hit him pretty hard. He finds himself 2 laps down ahead of the leaders. That equates to 5 minutes and 27 seconds, whereas the rest of the cars all within the minute of the leader, so that shows how closely contested this is. I think a few little instances of damage have really split the pack up, except for the exceptional speed of the top 3, it seems. But we can see there a big line of traffic just waiting to capitalise on any mistakes. So the console in 1st place, a 13-second lead now developed up to J46 Dyson, and then the car which we're now on board with, which is Stoltz, as they look to be approaching. I think that might be the back marker of Casey Redwood. They're now approaching. Casey Redwood currently running in 11th place. He's in the number 62 Horbsner Automotive Renault Megane. Flick back over to trackside. Looks as though have they made it past him? No, it looks as though the back marker is still ahead. Let's just have a look with Dyson at the moment. Jump into his cockpit, see whether or not we can see. It looks as though he's just made the move over the back marker, I think. Yeah, I think them now past. Quite clear. Yeah, we can just see in the background. It seems clear, and they've now got the track to themselves pretty much. Lots of free air ahead. So Stoltz will have to try and hook up a few laps. It does look as though he's losing out around about 3/10 lap last time around. And he'll be looking to try and minimise that split time. Otherwise, J46 Dyson is going to take 2nd place away from him. Back to the battle between Al Axon. Al Axon actually looks as though he's been able to get past Jack Demenzies. He's now looking to try and challenge TTV Giacomo, which he will certainly be happy about that. We'll jump back into the cockpit of Al Axon. All U82 at the moment. That's Giacomo that we can see ahead of him in the Monster Energy car. We are just on the approach up to the bus stop. Let's see the difference in line. You can see that the lap times last time around were very similar, but we do know that All 82 is able to get a much quicker lap than what he's put out. It does look as though the wet weather is now done for the day, so this track is only going to get quicker and quicker, but those tyres been through 17 laps of hell with both wet and dry conditions, so don't forget, all of these drivers will be on wet tyres unless they've changed them, and that's going to be hard once the dry lines start to appear around this banked oval road circuit. So it does look as though All 82 has got the drive, he's got the slipstream. I don't know whether or not he's going to be able to make it into turn one. He goes around the outside just to have a little bit of a look. He's going to have to brake earlier though around that right hand side line, and he falls back in line as I expected there. To try and make that move work, you really have to get on the brakes earlier on the outside line and then hope that you can get a bit of a cut in depending on which line the car ahead of you on the ideal line takes. But All 82 is in 4th place. He has been able to get past Giacomo, and he's now going to try and challenge as best he can for the 3rd place and final podium of Stoltz. He finds himself just shy of 7 seconds behind him with 8 minutes remaining, and just having a look at the lap times, he's around about 4/10 quicker per lap, so the mathematics doesn't really work there, but anything can happen in these remaining 4 or so laps of race 3 here at Daytona Road Circuit. We've seen plenty of action, and luckily it's been the right sort of action in comparison to a lot of the other tracks. We have seen a little bit of contact going on. We've also seen a couple of unfortunate disconnections, but the contact has been minimal in these tricky conditions, and testament to the driving ability of all the cars out on track. Let's flip back to Giacomo, who's found himself now in 5th position. Does look as though he's about to challenge Jack de Menzies for the umpteenth time here, as we see a back marker there just moving alongside. I thought that might have been Al Axon for a second. I thought something had happened, but it's not. You see Jack de Menzies right back behind these guys, but TTB Giacomo is now challenging that air bubbles car ahead of him. He's now got the slipstream. Is he going to be able to make it happen into turn one? Let's have a look. So this is almost like for like as to what we saw last time around. Go trackside, and we can just see him riding right into the coattails of that number 11 air bubbles car, and he has got a good drive out of that. Just scrubbed a little bit of speed off, and Al Axon shut the door as soon as he could. Just looking at the comments, looks as though Jack is getting plenty of support, and little mistake there from Al Axon. I was just about to say Lucy looks as though she's tuned into this one, looking pretty happy. He almost made a mistake though, and almost lost it. It does look as though Giacomo is still continuing to pile on the pressure, and I've got to say the effort of TCB Giacomo and the ability of him has improved race after race after race. And we've said this, I think me and the console were saying it in last week's GT3. Oh, huge mistake there from Al Axon. He's going to lose out on at least one position. It does look as though Jack de Menzies is going to come through. We just saw him. It looked as though he locked up the front end. That brought the rear around and got in all sorts of trouble. Is Jack de Menzies going to be able to capitalise on it? Does look as though he's got a little bit more momentum as he comes around up into his approach into the bus stop. So yeah, it looks as though the front just caught a little bit of loss of traction, lost the rear, and that's just allowed Giacomo through into 4th position. Alex is going to have to really try and keep hold of this one into the remaining 5 minutes, because we've seen the ability of Jack de Menzies throughout this one, and he's currently on for his fastest lap, so the track is getting quicker. Meanwhile, looks as though Stoltz has just taken 2nd place away from J46 Dyson. Perseverance has paid off there from the two friends and co-patriots. So Stoltz moves up into 2nd place. He does run a little bit wide into turn 1. That's going to allow J46 Dyson to challenge it and take that place back. So J46 Dyson moves back into 2nd place. I think turn 1 has been the nemesis of Stoltz. looks as though he can really hook a lap together, except for turn 1. It just seems to screw him almost every single time. So as we run down the rest of the pack, let's take a look here. Jack Menzies looks as though he's able to chase once again to Al Axon. Al Axon is also not too far away from TTV Giacomo. And the top 6 battle between these guys has probably been one of the best ones we've seen in Flux Motorsport this season in all of our championships. Just changing places, trading paint all the way through it. And Giacomo continues to reign supreme, runs a little bit deep, but that's not too bad. It does give you a good run up into the bank section. Let's jump into the cockpit of All U82 now as he has a look around the high line. He's going to go high indeed. That's going to give him a better slipstream, but as mentioned before, he's going a longer way around. Let's just see whether or not he can make it work into the braking. Trackside into the bus stop momentarily. So that is Giacomo on the inside. Under braking, looks as though he's managed to hold his nerve and continues to hold on to that position. Did just take a little bit of a cheeky line off on the exit of the bus stop. That might well be a slowdown for him. We'll have to wait and see whether or not he ends up slowing down for that one at all. Meanwhile, right at the top, it looks as though Stoltz has got it done again, and this time he's got a much bigger lead ahead of J46 Dyson as they come across the line. Let's just see whether or not he can compose himself into the braking of turn 1 and whether or not he's going to make the same sort of mistake. Looks much better. That's how he wants to do it each and every time. So Stoltz continues to hold on to second place. J46 Dyson in third, and it looks as though TTV Giacomo and Al Axon now changing places into the braking of turn 1. Jack Menzies is also in that running as well, with a back marker just behind for good measure. So this battle far from over in the remaining 3 minutes of this race. The console leading it on lap 21. He's got 13.7 seconds almost to his nearest rival, which is Stoltz 44 in second place, with J46 Dyson in third. Then it's Giacomo at the moment, who we're currently tracking around in the number 86 Monster Energy car. Does look as though he's got his braking a little bit messed up there, and that's going to allow All U82 through into fourth position. Jump back into the cockpit of Giacomo. Let's have a look into the braking here of turn 6 onto the run out to the oval. Into 7 now, and is he going to maintain that low line that we've seen him try and make work? See there, just a little bit of spray coming up through some of the wet parts of this track, but doesn't look as though we've got any dovetails coming up from the back of the cars. So definitely got dry sections forming, and that's going to boost the tyre temperatures and make it a little bit tricky for these drivers to hold their grip for the remaining 2 minutes. Does look as though Giacomo got a good line out of that one. He's making small gains in that slipstream of All U82. He's having a little look up to the high line as well. Thinks better of it, maintains the slipstream. And he's just going to try and almost ride a bump draft on the way round to the start-finish line. Bump drafts are not permitted unless we run stock car racing inside Flux Motorsport, or unless it's already specified, and they are definitely illegal within this one. But he's certainly getting as close as he can without bum drafting, and good driving from both drivers here. Very competitive, as we've seen throughout most of this one, but it does look as though that podium position has slipped away from All U82. He's been too busy battling with Giacomo and Jack Menzies, it seems, to be able to push on through that. Meanwhile, the console last lap around has set the fastest lap of the race with a 2-minute dead .234. So that will be an additional bonus point unless that gets beaten in the final lap. I think we might be on. Let's have a look at where the console is. So actually, no, it looks as though we're going to have... oh yeah, this one is definitely going to be the final lap. He's just coming around the first oval section on the run-up to the bus stop chicane. So 36 seconds remaining inside the session. This is going to be the last one around for sure. We will keep an eye out on where the console is, just so that we can see him crossing the line for the final time, but we're going to keep on board or tracking around TTV Giacomo in his challenge for the 4th place of All U82. So it does look as though the console is coming around the final section of the oval. 7 seconds remaining, so my predictions were right. This is going to be the last lap. It looks as though Stoltz and J46 Dyson have just gone through the bus stop, and we can see All U82 and TTV Giacomo also coming around the bus stop, but we see the lights flashing from a flawless race for the third week in a run from the console. Fantastic driving from him. It's been clear cut all the way through. Stoltz, meanwhile, has had to work hard for the money this week, finds himself all the way battling through the field into second position, and it's a really, really good fight from him as we see him just coming down underneath the yellow lines for the final time. We'll let that one slide, but J46 Dyson finds himself in third position. All U82 battles his way from the back. Great drive from him to take fourth, with Giacomo doing all he could in the end to hold off for fifth place. Then Jack de Menzies ends up settling for sixth. He'll be disappointed with that, but it is a good finish. T. Scott looks as though he's coming around the final turn now for his last run. That'll be seventh position from him, and good drive from him. Another mid-pack finish, and he just needs to be able to build upon that week in, week out. I'm sure we'll see improved drives. But it does look as though he's got a bit of front end damage, so I wonder if there's been a little bit of nudgy bumps going through that. Kovkar, we saw him wrapped up in a little bit of controversy early on in the race, but he's done enough for 8th position. Luke Snipes, he'll be a little bit disappointed actually with that. It is a good finish from him, but I think with the pace that he was able to put in some of the practice sessions and maybe the qualification, he came to this very late with very little practice. But he looked as though he had quite a lot of undeveloped pace. Whereas Casey Redwood, also perhaps a little bit disappointing in his finish, but it's going to do his standings the world of good. So here we are at the end of race 3 here at Daytona in our Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. The console gets the fastest lap just about, so bonus point for him to go along with his qualification bonus point for pole position, and he picks up the 35 points. So the clean sweep for the console this week: Stoltz in second and J46 Dyson in third place. All U82 in fourth, with Giacomo in fifth. Jack de Menzies in sixth place despite his 5-second penalty in the end. T. Scott comes seventh with Kovkar in eighth. Luke Snipes in ninth, with Casey Redwood doing enough in 10th place. And that is following on from Old Smokey's penalty, I do believe. Old Smokey in 11th place, ahead of Survivor 1880 in 12th. Green Gaming in last, and the rest of the drivers that started the race will come up with DNFs. So no points for them, unfortunately. So that is race week 3 done and dusted in the touring cars. Next week, you'll be able to join us for Long Beach and the GP circuit. If you're not well acquainted with the Long Beach circuit, that is one that you do not want to miss inside this touring car. Very tricky, especially when the cars are so evenly paced. It's going to be a whole lot of exchanging paint. Plenty of drama, I'm sure, to come at Long Beach. As for the next race in the championships across Flux Motorsport, we'll be bringing you the GT1 footage as soon as possible, and you'll be able to join both myself and the console in the box live on Sunday evening from 8 o'clock UK time. We're now at GMT, so please adjust your clocks accordingly. And as ever, make sure that you follow us on all of the major social media channels to make sure that you keep up with all of the current race standings and goings on across the community. My name's Murphy. I've been your host for the evening. I will see you once again on Sunday evening live with the console. But until then, enjoy the week ahead and stay safe, ladies and gents. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to week 4 here in the Touring Car Championship. Take care. Good evening.